What's up, everyone? Welcome back. It's Wednesday night. That means it is time for Mythic Conversations. We're kicking it off with a super chat right out of the gate. We've got a $4.99 super chat from Kevin Boots. Happy music time. That's right, Kevin. It is happy music time because it is Wednesday night. I'm super excited for tonight. The year's just started. Like, January's not even over yet, and I'm exhausted. This year has been insane already. Four Horsemen Studios, we have come out swinging for 2025. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about what's happened so far, a little bit about what's left to come, and just kind of reminisce. And you know what? I'll be honest with you. I just wanted to have a talk with one of my friends tonight. I wanted to just sit down and have a good old conversation. So I brought him up. He is inevitable, Curtis Akerman. Curtis, thank you very much for returning to Mythic Conversations.
I'm glad to be here. I always love hanging out with you.
Yeah, this was always a good time to spend some time. We were backstage. We both logged in a little early and have been chatting and stuff. So the conversation we were having, it's almost like, hey, I gotta go live. Let me just put you in the green room. Let's go live and continue that conversation, right?
Absolutely.
So, Curtis, I just said a minute ago, 2025, it's insane that January is not over yet, and already so much from a Legion standpoint has happened in this calendar year. I was saying before we started that, one of the big challenges for us at Four Horsemen Studios now is we have so much more than Mythic Legions. 5 years ago, we had Mythic Legions. That was the only line. But the fact that we now have Cosmic, Figura, Graveyard, this year we're going to see Infinite. This year we're going to see Legacies. Projects like the Dragon, which are such an aberration, so outside of what we normally do, the role-playing game. I mean, it's the book. There's so much to do that we find ourselves. Eric and I have jokingly said what we really need is to find a 13th month. Like, we need another month to just stretch it, which, of course, if we had that, we'd fill it. But finding the time to do everything so far has been a challenge. I think we've managed it pretty well. So from your perspective, the fan perspective and everything, have you been able to catch your breath this year?
Yeah. You guys are doing a lot right now, and it's kind of, I think, for your wallet and for your space, you've got to figure out what's the most important for you. Yeah. We not too long ago, we had Jim on Shooting the Shelf, and we were kind of talking to him about this, that not only, maybe 3-4 years ago, you guys were doing a lot more projects for other companies and things like that. Yep. You weren't doing, the calendar wasn't just full of stuff for yourself, and now all of a sudden you got all this stuff that you just mentioned. You also have things like the con exclusives and stuff for all these different conventions throughout the year that you guys are doing. It's just, there's a lot going on. And it's great stuff, man. We were talking just before we went on. It's like, there's so much stuff now that there's going to be something for everybody. And that means that not every single figure, not every single drop is going to make you super excited, but there's going to be something throughout the year. There's going to be something that hits you that you're like, man, not only do I need that, but I need a bunch of that. So just finding that thing that, gets you excited. So,
yeah, that's always the goal. You're right. We were talking about this before. It is tough to be a completist of Four Horsemen Studios at this point. Totally get that. I'm not a completist. There's a number of figures I don't have in my collection. I've had them all at one point or another. But when we plan out all of these things, we have to acknowledge the fact that we are so lucky that we have fans that want, at least one of everything we do. But that is not every buyer. So, we have to try to figure out, we want to make sure that, to your point, if we drop something that's not for you, that it's not too long before something else is available that may be for you.
Oh yeah. I mean, about 4 years ago or whatever, when I got in the line, when people talked about being a completist, that just meant you had every Mythic figure, right?
Yes.
And now it's all this other stuff too. So it's like kind of pick your poison. And if there's some, I'm sure there are some out there that are 4 horsemen completists that have every special drop, every you got multiple versions of this character. You got the regular version and the all-star version, and I've just gotten everything. But that's becoming harder and harder because you guys are just putting out so much great stuff.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
This is an opinion question. A Mythic Legions completist. The Armory throws a wrench into that. So
I was just having this conversation. We do our little D&D campaign, our Legions quest. And before we went live this past week, Trevor Williams shared a little frustration with us because he had ordered a couple figures from the Armory, and then he noticed that they have individual barcodes for the different knights. And in his opinion, what he said was, if it's got a different barcode, that means you need to have one of each of those. So who am I to argue with Trevor? So I think if you're a completist, I think you have to have one of each of those pre-built knights.
Well, that was my opinion, because I heard some people saying you need every single piece that was in the Armory at Legions Con to be complete. And I disagree with that.
I would say you might want to have all the gold pieces like that. That I think nice. I could see having all the gold pieces, but having every single arm, pauldron, all this and that, I don't know that you need that.
I don't know that you need that either. So to me, wow, like, could someone achieve that? Absolutely. Oh, yeah. To me, that's like next level. Like, that's those completists that are like, I need the most obscure variants and the most obscure things that were never really publicly available for my collection.
Yeah, like I heard that there's some releases that have like white zip ties versus like the brown, the gray zip ties. Like if you're at that point where you're just like, hey, I need to have 2 of these because they have different color zip ties. Yeah, you're pretty extreme.
So my thought process was, to be complete, you have all 10 Armory Knights. However, I had heard another opinion that said, to be complete, you need one of each color. And I was like, you know what? I don't think that's a bad idea either. So yes, Trevor's right. All 10 knights have individual SKUs. Yeah, the marketing director in me wants to say, go buy all 10 of them to be complete. But I do like that other approach, that if you have one of each color, I think that makes you complete. It actually made me, what I decided to do was, because I have all the colors, but they're all mixed and matched. I decided to get one of each knight, like one of each of the 4 colors, with pretty much the same build. Like the red shield shoulder pauldrons, the Valiant Knight waist, but a different head on all 4. So I have one of each color, very, very similar builds. And to me, that represents, those are my like pretty much untouched Armory Knights.
Gotcha. Yeah, I really liked the kind of the evil build, the big spiky pauldrons and like, I don't know, those were always my favorite, like when I first got into the line. So I loved those.
You like those?
Yeah.
I mean, to each their own. Figure out how you want to do it. So we obviously started the year. We're talking about the Armory Knights. We started the year with the in-stock sale. I've mentioned this before.
Well, you still had Rise of the Beast, right? Up until then.
Well, Reign of the Beast.
Reign of the Beast, yeah.
Yeah, right before the new year.
Did it? I thought it went into a couple days of the new year. Okay, gotcha.
No, so in the past, we've always bled, because this is one of the challenges as we plan out the end of year wave. And even as we deal with people, because we hear people say like, oh, I can't believe you do a pre-order the month before Christmas. Okay, that's November. I can't believe you do a pre-order the month of Christmas. That's December. I can't believe you do a pre-order the month after Christmas. That's a quarter of the year.
Yeah.
Like if I can't do a pre-order from November until February, you're taking 25% of the calendar out of the equation, including the most popular shopping time of the year. Like that's insanity. There's no way we could ever do that.
You're never going to please everybody. That's just, yeah.
But in the past, we've always pushed the end of year pre-order like 2 weeks into January to give people that little extra. Because this particular wave was a smaller wave, a less expensive wave, and because we had so much else to do, we cut it off before the new year. But I've said before that because we moved the dragon from January to March, and I know a lot of people are curious about the dragon. While it may seem like we're not doing anything with it, we are working frantically on the back end to get our ducks in a row to make sure we can do that in March. But because we moved that, and now because Necro's coming in, really it made it so the only place to put the in-stock sale was the start of January. And then we had to find a place for the book and these cosmic character packs. Like this first month, these first couple months, really, the first quarter of this year, it's been really full by necessity. But what we've trying to do is you're noticing a lot of the things we're offering are a lot smaller. Right now we've got the book and we've got the night up. It's not like we did the book and 14 reissue figures to choose from at this point. We're trying to do smaller things more frequently.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure your shipping department likes that. And I'm sure that, folks that, that are thinking with their wallets probably like it because, maybe you're one of those people that loves nights and you went in on the nights, but Cosmic's just not your thing. And so you're not doing any of the heads pack. Or you could be Jeffrey Evans and Cosmic is your number one love and you're just all over that heads pack. So something for everybody.
So Heinrich is telling me it's not insanity to avoid November to January. It is if you want to actually make money and sell product. Saying don't sell anything during the busiest shopping period of the year. That is a recipe for going out of business.
Yeah, I saw somebody. I think you guys dropped a figure obscura during San Diego Comic-Con this past year. And somebody was like, how could they put up something for sale during San Diego Comic-Con? I'm like, if they didn't do it this week and they did it next week, it would have conflicted with something else for somebody else. Like just, get it or don't.
So trying to find spots to put these things. So we've got the Mythic Legions first 10 years book and the Silver Knight Legion Builder 2. Those are available for pre-order. We teased those obviously at G-Con last year. That pre-order obviously that pre-order ends this Sunday. Is it the book's not going to be for everybody? Is the book something you're excited for?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Everybody that knows me knows I'm not a big reader.
Yes. There's a lot of pictures in this.
But there's pictures. And I just love having the physical media, even if it's something like I've heard some people say, well, I've got some of that for Masters or for G.I. Joe or whatever, and I never looked through it. And that's fine, but it's there. And if you did want to look through it, you can go through it. And there's also the folks that say, well, I can go and look at that stuff online. That's true too. But I don't know, just something about having that physical media, be able to go through it. I mean, this is 10 years. This is, there's so many toy lines that we loved as kids that never made it 2-3 years. 10 years for a line is ridiculously cool. And so, just having that is going to be awesome.
I will say the sales on the book have been a little lower than I was hoping for.
Oh, really?
They have been, which is, I'm being very honest with this, doing something like this book. I don't want to say it's a risk for us, but it's a lot of work. It takes a lot of time, a lot of resources to pull something like this together. And, we have these conversations internally where we're like, where are our efforts best put? Like, we've got fans that say they want things like this, and we want to give them, like, we want to see this done. But, like, we've had people saying, oh, trading cards, comic books, all these different things. And we're like, all of those things take time and money to actually get out there. So doing this book was, very much us kind of testing the waters, because we've done things like the mouse pads and the skate decks, but those are super easy to do. That's George going on those template builders, and he creates it, and we do very, very small runs of those. This book is really us kind of putting a project out there that we are hoping is going to sell in some decent numbers, as proof that, like, hey, our fan community does want projects like this that go beyond just the toys themselves. So you never know. It's like I said, we just did the in-stock sale a couple weeks ago. So there could be a lot of people waiting for this weekend to jump onto the book. And the sales they certainly haven't been bad, just not as much as I was hoping to see at this point. So I'm really hoping that we get a big push this weekend. I mean, not only on the Knights, but on that book as well.
Well, I know obviously you guys put a lot of work into this. I mean, Trevor, each time that we go to meet for D&D, he's talking about how he's still working on stuff. So, but once it's done, like, I'm just worried that maybe there's some folks that don't realize how cool this is, and then they're going to see it and be like, oh my goodness, I made a mistake. Like, once it's done, like, is there a chance that you guys, if there was a, after the pre-order, you start getting these in people's hands, and you see that there's more excitement and people didn't get it because they just didn't know, like, can you do another print run of it, or how
we certainly could. Well, so we will order some beyond the pre-order. We will order some of these. I mean, the one of the challenge things with a book is they're really, really heavy. These are 360 plus page books, hardcover. So we're only going to be able to bring so many of these things to shows and stuff like that, just because of, what it takes up and how much weight it is. We don't want to be lugging, cases and cases of books to shows.
Yeah.
So like anything, when it comes to print, there are like price breaks at certain numbers,
Okay.
So we've got to look at, okay, how many do we need for pre-orders? And then it's going to be available at retailers. How many did retailers order? And then we're going to look at it and say, okay, well, what should our order actually look like? So we will have some of these at shows. Yes, certainly there could be a second print run if it comes to that. My concern would be whether or not there's enough of a demand to do a second print run, because there is a minimum order number. We'd have to really say, like, okay, if we've already gotten like kind of our core base that has already seen it and had an opportunity, I don't know if there would be enough interest in a second run, but certainly we will have some of them at shows. I mean, at least in the short term until they sell out.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
So that's going on now. Again, if you haven't pre-ordered those yet, you have until this coming Sunday at 11 p.m. to do so. The items will be available at retailers after that. I know people are asking about the prices at retailers. We're still working that out. I can tell you the prices right now is it's $50 or $49.99 from Store Horseman. The Night Builder is $30 and the 12-pack is $325. I will tell you, Curtis, that while we've sold fewer books than I expected, we have sold way more 12-pack of Knights than I expected we would.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
That seems to be hitting the right notes there at that 325.
Man, I tell you what, when you put out a builder that is just so, you're just able to army build at that price, it doesn't surprise me. Same thing with like when the Legion Builder 2 skeleton just started selling like crazy. Like, it doesn't surprise me. Like, it's got, maybe some less stuff than a named character would, but for that price and the fact that you can army build these things out, like, that doesn't surprise me. I will tell you, I ordered my book the first day. I was just like, dude, I appreciate that. I need, like I need that, it's yeah, it's so cool.
It was, I've said this before, but putting it together was a lot of fun because I've been with the line since day one.
Mm-hmm.
In the marketing, I said, for those who have, been with the line since the early days, it's like a walk down memory lane. And that was a very genuine comment because that's what it felt like for me. Like writing
Mm-hmm.
about all of this stuff, remembering all this stuff, it very much felt like, going back to those times. And then I was imagining someone that was newer to the line being able to get all this information. And realistically, most of the information in the book is already out there. You can find it, but trying to find all of it, trust me, I had to find all of it to put it into the book. It was no small feat, and I kind of knew where to begin. To actually dig all of this out, if you wanted to and get it all, it would be a brutal undertaking. So to have it all in one place, I think is going to be a lot of fun for people, whether they're new or new to the line or been with us for a while.
Absolutely.
Joe Vassapol's in the chat, and he is saying, I'm waiting to see what crazy colors people use on those Silver Knights. All you need is some transparent paint to go over the armor plates. Leave the chainmail alone. It could be fun.
Yeah.
I do think the Knight, like especially with that blue shield, we had Joe put together some pop and swaps so we could take some pictures of it. I think that's going to be a great figure for people that just want to use those parts and, like you said, want to customize and build off that $30 Legion Builder price point. You just can't beat that.
Yeah. The more that I've gotten into customizing, the more that I really just love and appreciate builders. Like, Reinforcements Wave, Deluxe Legion Builder, whatever. Anytime that you got Legion Builders out there, I'm just excited. So
Legion Builders are very much a mixed bag for me. When I first got into Legions with the first wave, I didn't like the Legion Builders. I got them because I got an all in, but like that, talk about the Silver Knight. I remember looking at the Silver Knight like, why would I want this figure when I can get the Sir Owain that's fully painted? Obviously, when I was backing that first wave, I wasn't customizing Legions yet. Once you start customizing Legions, you absolutely understand the value of Legion Builders. But from my standpoint now, with sales and marketing, we've talked before about that video that someone did a review where he got a Legion Builder and totally slammed it. Like totally was like, this is not worth it. There's no paint, blah, blah, blah. And I've always used the analogy that it's like buying a cheese pizza and complaining that there's no toppings on it. Well, you bought a cheese pizza. Like you bought the lowest, the cheapest option that you could get. And a lot of people kind of pushed back on that guy. And I mean, I didn't, because he was just uneducated. Like he bought something, but he's indicative of so many potential customers. They don't know what the line is. They see that figure is a little bit cheaper than the other. So they're like, oh, I'm going to start with that one. And they get it in. And the things that they're complaining about are part of what make Legion Builders what they are. So for me, I have really kind of a love-hate relationship with Legion Builders.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult because we've got a community that's built, pretty heavily around customizing.
Yeah.
But that is not the majority of who your fans are, right? Like, so it's like this kind of, echo chamber amongst ourselves where we're like, yeah, we love these things. We love the swappability. We love the Legion Builders and being able to paint them and stuff. But it's a small part of the people that are actually collecting this line. So you just got to keep that in mind too. Like it's, what may be important to you may not be important to the majority of folks. So,
and some look better than others. I mean, I've said before that, that skeleton Legion Builder too, there's nothing about that figure that feels like held back. Like it doesn't feel like we didn't go all out on that figure. I always had thought that the skeleton Legion Builders were some of the better ones because of the bones and the washes on them and stuff. The things that always bothered me, and they still bother me to this day, is when you have things like fur or belts and buckles, things like that aren't painted, those stand out to me a lot more than like just the regular armor parts do.
Yeah, I mean, I love the Dark Templar. I think they're great. But like you compare the Dark Templar versus like the Relic Guard just blows it away. Like just in terms of like that just metallic, that shiny, like it, there's certain ones that just are a little bit better.
So that's the pre-order going on. The next pre-order we have coming up is actually what we discussed last week on this show. So last week we had Mr. Eric Miller on, and we talked about the Cosmic Legions character packs. Now, you messaged me right after the show expressing that you loved it, but you wished that it had a Tusk member in it, because we all know how much you really, really love Tusk. All I can say is it is surprising that there are no Tusk editions in this group, and it's intentional. Like, there's a reason why we did not do Tusk in this particular first wave of Cosmic character packs.
Very
but
nice.
that aside, I'm curious, was this a surprise to you, to an offering like this?
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting because obviously you've done a hedge pack before in Mythic, but it was just like a set hedge pack that was, a bunch of different ones together, and you weren't specifying, hey, this is made to go on this figure or that figure or whatever. So doing it the way that you guys did it, like the fact that you have heads coming out doesn't surprise me. The way that it came out with paint matches to specific figures, with a couple figures per and the price point. And then the fact that you brought Eric Miller in. I mean, just great choices all around. And I love the two that Sherry did as well. Like those will work universally across Mythic or Cosmic. So
I saw a lot of people saying that the two female heads on the Zeri bodies really had kind of like a Fallout type feel.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
Which I can totally see. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So the idea for these, and I don't remember if I mentioned.
Let me tell you something real quick. When I saw that female head, what I said to myself was, I need some more Delphinas. I immediately went out and was trying to trade people for some Delphinas because I want some more female Templars. And I'm like, this gives me some heads to put on that body and create a new look. So
it absolutely does.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Eric and I talked about this a little bit at the start of the show. We are still at this early stage of Cosmic Legion's life cycle, trying to get it into more fans' hands. There are a lot of our, most passionate Mythic Legions fans that still really haven't started buying Cosmic. They might have bought one, or a lot of them have bought none of them. And I do think that part of that is the popping and swapping. So, I was having a conversation a while back with Matt from Onel, the guy creator of Glyos and stuff. And, we were just talking about having product, trying to breathe new life into product you already have. And I was thinking about Cosmic Legions because I'm like, you know what? I've seen a lot of people buying these figures, but maybe not buying multiples because, as I said last week, a figure like Kragnar, unless you're willing to paint, there's really nothing else you can put on him. So this idea to, hey, you know what? Let's repaint some heads, unlike what we did with Mythic, where we just said, hey, you can pop these on really anything you want. To really do these type of heads that were specifically made to go with characters and then combine them together with some combo packs. It was a different approach, to your point, than we've done before. But the reaction that I've seen so far has been very, very positive. And I'm excited for the potential of what this could look like in the future and how we could, repurpose different parts and breathe new life into some of these characters.
Yeah, and not only that, but giving an opportunity to a member of the community to be a part of this. I mean, you've talked about it, but I mean, Eric is so excited about Cosmic in general anyway. And then he's been a super fan of the line since the beginning, and clearly he does amazing work. And, he's talked about how, initially he wasn't, like, when he would go to cons, he wasn't bringing painted heads because that's not what he was really interested in. He wanted to do full figures, but people wanted something of his work, and so he started painting heads just for that. So the fact that people can now get, a painted head, like, when you think about it, like, it's $10 for two, you're getting a painted Eric Miller head for $5. Like, what, there's no better deal than that. So yeah, just a cool fan service type of thing on top of, making more options for these figures. Like you said, it's just really neat. And it's something that I've seen over and over again with this company is taking care of the people in the community. And it's awesome.
And, let me address that a little bit, because I want to be very clear on something. At no point did we ever say, hey, let's have Eric paint these because it'll be a cool, like, person in the community type thing, and I can market around that. Like, that conversation never happened. Eric's a great guy. He's incredibly talented, and he put in the work. Like, he did the work to say, this is something I would like to do professionally. He, made the calls that he had to make. He did some time. This is the first thing you're seeing us reveal that Eric painted. It's not the first thing he painted for the studio. He actually did a bunch of third-party work for us. So he did a bunch of stuff that wasn't Legions, and, kind of proved himself through those projects and stuff. And then when this project came up, it was very much right place, right time, where, as I said, we were painting this last, like, September, October, when everyone at the studio was so focused on Dragon, dioramas, life-size scapulars, Reign of the Beasts wave. Like, there was just no bandwidth. Everybody in that studio, it seems like they were painting something. So being able to send these parts to Eric and say, hey, can you take care of this? It very much fit in. Then on the back end of that, I got the marketing idea to say, like, hey, while we reveal these, let's also reveal the fact that you worked on it, because that is a feel-good story. So it's one of those things where, like, so much that happens is we made the right decision for the product and the company, and the fact that it also is, doing something cool with the community, that ends up almost being like a happy accident byproduct of it.
Yeah, but I think it's the awareness more than anything that you guys like. Do you think that Hasbro knows who's painting up Joe figures and making customs, like, knows the artist names, and, like, just the fact that you guys know, okay, Eric is a super fan of Cosmic. Eric is an amazing painter. We've seen his work. We know his work. Like, I can't imagine, top executives at other toy companies even knowing who we are. So the fact that you guys are aware of that, to where when a project like this comes along and you're like, well, who would be the perfect person for this? It really speaks a lot about, Four Horsemen.
I mean, that is well put. That is a very good point. So I'm excited for these. These go on sale. The pre-order for these will start next Friday, so the 7th. But the one thing I do want to point out to people, because I won't have a show next week. I'm going to be traveling next week, so I won't have a show before these go for sale. So the one thing I do want to make people aware of is you can buy just the head packs. The head packs are $10. Those are pre-order, so get whatever you want. The actual combo packs in the full team pack, those are actually limited, because the figures that we are going to pair them with already exist. So I can only sell what already exists. We're not doing another run of these. This is us, again, breathing life into some of these figures that we have available. So I only have so many to sell. And the reason I say that is we do have a lot of people that wait towards the end of a pre-order to place their order numbers. that is going to be riskier if you want some of the combo packs. Some of the combo packs are available in much smaller quantities than others. So I just tell people that so they understand that if you want to take advantage of those prices, get in sooner rather than later on this particular pre-order.
Absolutely. And you know, these bodies that you're seeing here aren't the only bodies that you can use these heads on either. Like,
Oh, not at all.
you know, I obviously, you know, I love the Tusk. I got my Tusk shirt on tonight. You know, you could take like that gray or the snake head or whatever and pop them on a Tusk. You could, when Baradak comes out, you could take this Kragnar head and put it on Baradak and see what that looks like. You know, there's going to be other options as well. And it's just cool to have extra parts in your bin to choose from. So
I hate to say this for the risking upsetting Greg, but I know we would never want to remove Sir Uxak's head, but those orange parts on that Uxak armor might actually look pretty cool because there's some yellows in there, and that might work with like the golds and whites.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, I mean, the female heads, we showed them on Mythic Bodies. You mentioned Delphina. Those are going to look great. And it's interesting, just an observation. Last time we repainted the Thrace head, we got so much crap about it. Like when we did that for Azza, so many people were like, oh, I can't believe they repainted that head again. So we were a little hesitant to do it here because of the pushback we got last time. But we really were like, it's such a great sculpture that we've never painted to look actually human. Like every time we've done it, it's looked, you know, otherworldly essentially. Yeah. So painting it to actually look human, I think it looks so good that just no one could actually really criticize it because it is Shuri did such a slam dunk job on it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't buy into that critique that you're talking about. I mean, I think if anything, I could say maybe because it was a version 2 of a named character and they didn't want to see reuse on that. But I mean, you guys do such a great job of from the beginning of taking these parts and repainting them, you know, 50,000 ways to make them look new each time. You know, you got to look no further than my favorite figure of this past year, which was the Fisher Rice figure, and just look at those weapons that Joe painted up. Like we've had those weapons several times before, but all of a sudden you get them on that Fisher Rice and you're like, what the heck is this? Like this thing is awesome, you know? So yeah, you guys just do a good job with that. And this looks amazing here.
Thank you. Fisher Rice is, I think, my favorite Legions figure of 2024. I agree with you that I was excited for it. And when that figure first started getting designed, the idea was a black Tusk. Like we said, hey, let's just do a black Tusk. Like it actually started as a Legion builder, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
Yep. It was going to be a black Tusk Legion builder. We were going to put both of the helmets in it. Like we were trying to create something that was just army builder type thing. Yeah. Super easy to customize, basic color. And then little paint accents. We were like, well, maybe we could do this. And then Eric was like, hey, let's do, you know, blue skin. And you know, he wanted to do that tribute to the adventure people, alien astronaut. And the minute that suggestion came up, it was like this thing got a whole new life breathed into it. So it kind of became a bit of a combination of all those ideas. Really, the Legion builder aspect of it, meaning no paint apps, was really the only part that got left on the cutting room floor. The fact that it is a figure that comes with so many parts allows you to build so many configurations right out of the box. That was a figure that this happens frequently. I was excited for it. And then when I got it in hand, it exceeded my expectations.
It was, for me, it was almost like a figure obscura for the fact that like I didn't know adventure people. Like that's not something I collected or even really knew about growing up. So then like you get it and it's like, oh, I want to learn more about this, right? And then you see people doing photography with it and you see people going on eBay and buying the old figure and stuff. And it's like, learning a little bit about this, which is what I really get excited about with the figure obscura. So that part I really enjoyed too. But just anything that has swappability options, I think are so great. I'm doing an episode this weekend with Jeff Evans where we're going to swap the Legions Con Cosmic 2-pack from Legions Con this week with Fisher Rice and with the Sligor, because each one of those comes with a bunch of extra options to switch and swap, right? And I think that's really like the main thing of this line. Like for the longest time, people said, if you're going to get somebody in the line, give them the OG Barbarian Builder, right? Because it had all these extra parts, and you immediately get them to understand that this isn't just a line where you pull the figure out of the box, you pose it, put it on your shelf. That's not what this is. Like this is, you're going to play with this and you're going to pop it around, swap it, and do all these things. And the best way to do that is get something that has multiple options. And I love that. Anytime that you guys give us that, I'm like, heck yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah, I agree. I love it. So you just mentioned that you're doing a show with Jeff, obviously Captain Cosmic over there. He loves this stuff. You're doing a show with him. I want to talk a little bit about that because you really have like grabbed this. I want to give back to the community. I want to inspire and encourage people's creativity. I feel like you've really grabbed that in the last few years and this year, certainly with your new channel and everything. And, I want to know more about that. Like, what are you doing right now? And what brought you to this point?
Okay. Well, without trying to get too sappy, like this line has changed my life. And I know that sounds kind of weird to say, but I've heard it from so many people. Like it's not just me. And the friends that I've made, the hobby that I've built, like the fact that this helps me to just calm my nerves and enjoy life. It's really transformed my life. So, I guess it was like a year and a half ago or so. It's probably more like 2 years ago. I was doing some stuff with Wolf King, and I started doing some like tutorials on the Wolf Den. And that was back when you could do, I was doing live videos first, and then we started doing rooms back when you could do rooms where we were doing the customizing studio. And they kind of did away with rooms on Facebook, but we decided to just kind of put a messenger group together and start doing it in the Cabal. And as we started doing the customizing studio, I'll admit, like right off the bat, it was for me. Like when I first started it, it was like accountability for me to make sure that I was being creative every week. At least on Sundays at 1 p.m., I know I'm going to be in my studio painting no matter what. And because I did, after the first Legions Con that I went through like a 3-month spell where I didn't paint anything, and I went into a real bad depression. And so for me, it was just like, I need to make sure that I'm painting every week. But then we started getting all these new people jumping into the studio, and you would have experienced people. You had Emil in there and Joe Vassapolo and all these people that have a lot of talent and experience. And then you'd had brand new people in. And seeing things like Tanya come in last year and just start painting and go all the way from the very beginning of painting to displaying things at Legions Con was amazing. And so in the customizing studio, several months back, Brendan Higgins, who he might be in the chat, I'm not sure, but he was talking about how difficult it is for new people to find resources, whether it's paint matching or tips or techniques and stuff. And I know that they exist because when I got in the line, I found them, but it does take some research. You go to this YouTube channel for this thing, and you go to this, Instagram tutorial for another thing, and so on and so forth. And so what I wanted to do was throw everything into one spot and have just a single channel that was dedicated to customizing Legions. And so that's what I've been doing for the last, month and a half, 2 months now. And just trying to put out as much content as I can. And I've already had several people reach out that said, hey, I picked up this thing that you recommended and it's great. Or I started painting because you inspired me, and here's what I came up with. And man, there's no better feeling than that. The fact that to get somebody into this and get started with playing with your toys, because that's all this is. Like, whether you're into photography or just posing your figures or popping and swapping or painting, it's playing with toys and having fun and recapturing a small part of your youth. So in whatever way you can do that and have fun, I'm all for it. So Yeah.
So I love what you're doing there. And, I probably more so than anybody can relate to what you're talking about because you are traveling down a path that I traveled down years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, when I first, long before I was working for Four Horsemen Studios, I was customizing and I was sharing, my creations. And then I started doing these videos and I started trying to share what I was doing. And I've always said that the people I love to speak to the most were, almost like the couch to 5K crowd, where
Mm-hmm.
people that were like, I could never do this, that famous start with the dots,
Mm-hmm.
just kind of get started, like paint the basic stuff, do some dry brushing and all that. Like when I would hear those testimonials of people saying, I never thought I would have a creative outlet, and you got me to have the confidence to start. I get what you're saying. On a personal level, I am so happy you are doing this. I want to personally thank you for doing this type of stuff because I cannot do it anymore and it pains me. Like, this is something that genuinely keeps me up at night, where I see all these videos that I shot 4 years ago that are totally outdated, and I want to redo them. I want to do an update on them, and I just don't have the time. I
Mm-hmm.
cannot find the time to do everything I have to do and create that. But I know that there's a need for that stuff because there are a whole new group of fans that are coming up that, as you said, are looking for those resources. And the way the internet works, a lot of that old stuff gets pushed down and it's harder and harder to find. So someone like yourself, who is so talented, so personable, and well known, picking up that mantle and taking it forward allows, me personally to say, you know what? It's in good hands. I don't have to stress out about not having time to fill that gap because it's being filled.
I appreciate that more than you know. That you're almost you almost got me in tears there for a second. Because when I came in line, like you were able to do more of that, and I would look forward to, like, there would be like you used to do it on Saturday mornings where you would even go live in the Cabal or something, and
Yeah.
you'd be like, hey, we're just going to do this today and we're going to do some painting, and I know you don't have the time for that anymore. And but there was, you'd have like Dennis Derby doing some paint matches and stuff. But there's definitely some of that in the Cabal. There's like a whole file that they have on paint matches and stuff. But if it wasn't for like you and Zombie and Nikki and Dennis, like, I wouldn't have been able to do what I've done. And I tell you what, as far as the, well, I didn't think that I'd be able to do this, or I'm not that talented kind of crowd out there. I never did anything creative my whole life. Like, I wasn't one of those guys that sketched in notebooks as a kid. I didn't draw. I didn't paint. I didn't do anything. So if I'm able to do this, anybody can. I'm telling you, you just got to start small, start with some dry brushing, start with painting some dots, and you're just going to get, it's, I don't know, you're going to get a need for it and you're going to want to do more. So,
Dude, I remember Sherry saying that at GCon. One of my first interactions with Sherry was at GCon. Again, before I had joined the studio, when I was there as a guest, and I was showing some of my customs, and I had brought that gargoyle that I had done. You did a show with Eric LeBron talking about his gargoyles, and he was saying about how he got the recipe, from that figure that I painted, and he took it and ran with it and created his own. But I remember showing Sherry that gargoyle and her like asking about how it was painted and stuff, and her, us talking about trying to show people how to paint to get them excited. And she said, anybody can paint.
Yep.
Anybody can do this. This is, it just takes some patience and some practice. And, hearing it from someone at her level, that's, you listen to someone like that. Like, she is a bona fide expert when it comes to this stuff. The amount of stuff she has painted is staggering. She is the longest tenured employee of Four Horsemen Studios after the owners themselves. the amount of stuff that has come across her desk is unfathomable. She is an expert in every sense of the word. So when she says something like that, you got to listen. She is 100% right. And like you said, being able to get people to start doing it and see them find that creative outlet, it is so incredibly rewarding.
So I got a little quick story for you real quick.
Yeah.
So 2 years ago, well, it was my first intern. So it wasn't, it was 22. I got selected for intern. I was so excited. And it's getting to the time where you're going to hand out the bust, right? And ahead of time, I'm like, I'm definitely not painting this thing. I'm going to take it home because I don't like to be rushed. It's part of why I don't like do commissions and stuff. People ask me about commission. I don't, I want to do my own thing in my own time. So, so I'm like, I'm not going to paint this bust. I'm going to take it home, take my time, and then I'll paint it. And I remember I get to the front of the line to get mine, and you hand it to me, and you specifically said, "You've got 1 hour. Let's see what you can do." And I'm like, son of a gun. You threw down the challenge. And I'm like, all right, now I've got to. So I went over there and I'm just like whipping through this thing and dry brushing. They had some stations over there with hair dryers and stuff. And I'm doing the best thing I can. That was the Malleus one.
Malleus, yep.
And when I was done, I'm sitting there walking through the hallway with it, and Sherry was walking the other way. And I hadn't really talked to her because when we were doing our groups, we got split in half and I was in Cameron's room. So I hadn't had time to talk to her, but she goes, "Oh, I didn't get to see your bust. Can I see it?" And it was a little dark in the hallway. So we went over this area by the office where there's a little bit more light, and she's looking at it. She's like, "Oh, that looks really good. I love the depth that you created in the skull and stuff," and I'm just sitting there like, this is Sherry. Like, she's telling me she likes my paint job. Like, yeah. So a total fanboy moment for me. But that whole experience is just so cool. So yeah, but you're right. She's amazing. And back to your gargoyle, man, that's how a lot of us got our started. You had that your web page that had not only your customs, but you would go into the customs and it would have the full recipe, including what fodder that you used from different lines and stuff. You know how many times that myself and Eric LeBron and several others were hitting up eBay to try to buy Kylo Rens or buy, whatever else.
Weird Spawn figures. Yeah, I know. Yeah. I helped sell a decent amount of that stuff.
Yeah. So good stuff.
Yeah. And like I said, I genuinely, the website's a perfect example. There was a point that I had to give up the website. I couldn't update it anymore. It was like, because I would post on Instagram, then I'd go to the website, I'd manually update the website and post all that stuff. And as the amount of work I had to do increased, it just got to the point where something had to give. And it was hard because what you just said was what a lot of people had told me. They were like, "Oh, that website you had built became a resource." Because I mean, again, when I put that website up, those early days of Legions and Legions customizing, there was very little out there. You mentioned Dennis and Nikki and Zombie and myself. There was like a group of us that were doing this. I've said before, we kind of had our chat outside of the community chat where we would talk about stuff and trade pieces and everything, get fodder from each other. So once things got busier for me, that having to go away is something that's always kind of bothered me. And again, that's why seeing you do things like the customizing studio and the customizing studio live, the amount of people that talked about what a great time they had at Legions Con this year. I mean, the only thing that bums you out is that you can't do it for more people. You don't have more space and more time. Yeah,
it was a really fun experience at Legions Con. And I tell you what, the folks that were at the tables, the different artists that we had the tables, they were the real heroes. Like they did such a great job and just helped, bring these people under their wings. And yeah, it was really fun. So
it's good to see that next kind of generation of Legionnaires coming up and really understanding what this community is about and wanting to, like I said, put their efforts into making it even better.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not even, even if you don't have the need to paint or the desire to paint or whatever, it's still just giving back to the community that's giving to you. So if that could be as simple as like when you're on the Cabal and you see a really cool custom, throw a like on it, maybe make a comment, say, I specifically like this thing that you did, and encourage somebody. It doesn't have to be giving back by painting or doing a YouTube channel or doing a whatever. Like there's ways to give back, and man, it's a great community because of that. So.
Absolutely. So curious, looking as, we kind of talked about what has happened so far this year, thinking ahead a little bit. So one of the things on the afternoon show that Diego announced was that the shipping for the in-stock sale from the beginning of January, all that product is now out.
Yep. Great job, shipping team.
Yeah, once again, just absolutely killing it. I mean, they had a lot of SKUs in this particular campaign, and they did a great job. And it's perfect timing because one of the things we're going to announce tomorrow is that Necronominus is actually in port. So before everyone gets super excited, import does not mean at the warehouse. We do not have it in hand yet. Actually, the first container that arrived got flagged for customs. That means that there's a little bit more of a delay. Could be a couple days, could be a couple weeks. It's just one of 5 containers that are on the way to us right now. So they are going to be starting to arrive. We do expect that the first containers will be at the studio pretty darn soon, and we are ready to just get started and get those things shipping. So in the short term, obviously Necro is going to be hitting very, very soon. Graveyard Skeletons is also on the water in maybe just a few weeks at most out, and then that's going to start shipping as well. Curious to know from your perspective, what things are you most looking forward this year? And of course, it can be these waves coming in, things that haven't been announced that you're expecting. This is kind of open to interpretation.
Like there's just a lot of stuff that we've already ordered that's going to be coming in this year, and they're great figures. They're great figures, but they're also got a lot of new parts. And I you'd have to do some serious mathing to figure this out. But I wouldn't be surprised if after this year, if the library of parts doubles. Like there's that much coming in between Necronominus, All-Star 6, the 2 Ox Crew waves, if Rising Suns comes out, I know as of right now, it's tentatively on the schedule for this year. Like there's so much new tooling that as a customizer, like you talked about those early days where you were having to go to Black Series and to, all these other, 1/12 scale, 1/6 scale, other lines to try to get stuff to make your stuff look different. You don't need to do that anymore. Like there's so many new parts, and yeah, that's what I'm really excited about. But individually, as far as figures, the Templars, like Elijah and Enoch, yeah, that's where I'm most excited.
Well, it's interesting because Necronominus hitting momentarily. Part of me was like, you know what? It's taken a little bit of extra time for these to come in, and we've already got the Valiant Knight, we've got the Skeleton Legion builder. Like one of my things, I love the idea of preview figures, but I also get worried that, especially with the Knight body, we've now got the Valiant Knight and we got all the Armory Knights. Like, are people getting sick of that yet? Like, are people like, oh, I'm not excited for this. This isn't new anymore because I've already got it. And then I start looking at this wave and I'm like, we've just scratched the surface of the new parts in this particular wave. Yeah, we got that bear skeleton body that's found on Maxilius, but the fact that Necronominus and the Tuberculi both have very different skeletal parts that we don't have in hand yet. the fact that, Sir Gideon and Sir Elijah have different armor parts. You can see the pauldrons are different, but like, Gideon has all those, like, the bird motif on his shoulder, his elbow armor and his knee armor and everything. Adalric with those pauldrons, the different helmets. I look at this and I'm like, wow, we really just have barely gotten a few parts from this already. So your comment about the library expanding is very, very well received.
Well, and not only that, the soft goods too. Like I'll fully admit that the Legion Builder skeleton did take away a little bit of the excitement about the Maxilius, because that's part of why I ordered, a few Maxilius, was just to get those skeleton bodies. But I'm also wanting those robes. Like I wanted to make some monks with those robes, like old fashioned, like friar monk kind of things. And like I'm excited to get those robes. But yeah, there's just a ton of cool parts. Listen, I know Greg is going to talk about his figure, for the rest of time. But just the fact that we're getting armored ogre parts, like I've been wanting that for years. Yeah, it's going to be great. So yeah, there's just a lot of good stuff coming.
Now, the other thing that you were talking about earlier as well, when you talk about the parts library growing, it's also the cosmic parts library.
Mm-hmm.
So this wave you'll see in the announcement tomorrow, while Necronominus is arriving in port, while Graveyard Skeletons are on the water, All Stars 6. So production has started on All Star 6, but today is Chinese New Year, Year of the Snake. Happy Chinese New Year, everyone. So our factory is on break right now. When they come back, they will continue All Star 6 production. That should ship, pretty much right at the end of Q3, beginning of Q4 to us. And then, unless something changes, right now the plan is that Ox Crew is next up. So Ox Crew, the pre-production on that is wrapping up. Production on that is going to be ready to start soon. These are a lot of brand new parts that are going to get into that cosmic library.
Yeah, and I think this is going to hit people right square in the nose. Like I think there's some people that have been sleeping on Cosmic, and they're like, I've got my money tied up in Mythic, and Cosmic's not as much my thing as Sword and Sorcery. I think these, especially like the Ox Crew suits, those big giant suits, and then you get these like really crazy aliens and stuff. I think you get those on a table, you get them in somebody's hand, and they're going to go, oh my goodness, I should have pre-ordered this. So I think this is the wave that is going to kind of get people turned on to Cosmic once they see it in person.
Yeah, I agree. Those bodies are going to be a lot of fun. I'm so looking forward to being able to play with those. Orvar is the one I'm most excited for.
Me too. I love that guy.
I mean, these are an example where the prototypes are pure prototype. It's not one of those prototypes where, okay, it's a handful of new parts, but a lot of the like core of the figure is existing. So you can move it around a little bit. Like these things, they're so fragile. So when you touch those prototypes, you don't want to hold them, much less pose them. To get those in hand is going to be so much fun to play around and pose. The new articulation that Eric put into some of these, I love the big, bulky kind of, I don't want to say brute, but almost like tank kind of look. And after having so many tusks, these feel like they've got kind of that tank-like armor for them. So having them as is, the fact that they're compatible with the 1.0 tusk parts, I do feel like these are going to open up a whole new world of possibilities, no pun intended.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is, I think part of the reason why Tusk are so popular is the same way that Knights are so popular. Like, they're a head swap away from a totally different figure. And you can do that because you're not having to worry about, skin tone or textures or whatever. Like, you can just pop a new head on, and next thing you know, you got a brand new figure. And I love that. But yeah, they're just chunky boys. That Orvar is so chunky that like I'm just so excited to get that into my hand. Yeah.
Yeah. And then someone was asking whether it's going to be Ox Crew back to back. I do believe that is what we are looking to do at this point. We had said before that all of the Ox Crew stuff for waves 1 and 2 were designed at the same time. So all of these parts were sent over to the factory. They were tooled. So everything, when Ox Crew 1 is done tooling, it also means Ox Crew 2 is done tooling as well. So they're not being produced simultaneously, but they should be back to back. And they are smaller waves, right? These are, if you look at the parts that are in these waves, it's not as complex and ambitious as like a Necronominus wave. So, the hope is that these are going to go fairly smoothly. And I feel like by the middle of this year, we're going to be playing with some new Cosmic Legions Ox Crew figures.
That's awesome. I'm excited.
I am excited for those.
I'm excited for part swaps that I don't know that I'm excited for,
Yep.
if that makes sense. Like there's going to be certain. Okay, I'll give you an example real quick. Probably my surprise figure of the year is this one here, the CC24 from the Legions Con 2-pack.
Yep.
And the reason why I love this so much is the Sphexian arms on there, the lower arms.
Yep.
It just creates this like different, very elongated look on that guy that I never. I mean, I've had those parts. I've had those parts sitting here for the last year or so, and I didn't think to put those lower arms on one of these figures. And I love this look. Like, this is so freaking good.
And it is worth pointing out that the look you have there is only achievable with the show version.
Yeah, which is still available on Big Bad Toy Store and I think Wolf King Customs as well. So
they both have them. To get those upper arms and that head, you need that particular one. Yeah, that little kind of tusk build that's inside of that set with those bonus parts, I love that one as well. I opened up a bunch of them, and I've got a little crew of those guys. Big fan. You know what's funny? One of the figures I'm most excited for from Ox Crew, this makes no sense, is Hylor.
Oh, really?
Like,
that was right off the bat. I loved him.
Dude, like, there's so little new about him. It's the lower legs and it's the head. But to me, the sum of the parts, I love that figure so much. And even though, like, I'm looking forward to the Ox Crew bodies because it's so much new to play with, I know what I'm going to get with Hylor. Like, it is a tusk body literally from the neck to the calves. It's stuff we already have. But I'm so excited for that figure.
But then you also get that kind of wasteland vibe with the soft goods, and then Trevor's photo on that figure, like leading off with that one on that when you guys did that wave reveal and you led off with it. I'm like, okay, you got me. like man, yeah. I love that figure. I'm so excited.
Yeah, and then this wave too, I feel the popping and swapping on this wave between the David Williams tribute figure there, between the Thraxian Hunter and between Hylor, like the color palettes between those three and the possibilities of swapping between those three, I think is going to be very, very cool.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what I was saying with that one, though. I think there's going to be some parts on those that right now I don't have any intention or idea of putting onto a different figure. And then somebody's going to do it, and we're going to see it in the Cabal. We're going to see it somewhere and go, oh my goodness, like that. Yeah, that works. Like, I need to do that. So
I have another question for you.
Sure.
Obviously we've got some shows coming up. So I mentioned that next week I won't be doing this show because I'm going to be getting ready to travel down to Florida for MegaCon. George and Jim will be joining me for that. But then we get to March, which March is the crazy month for me. I've got ZoloCon. I'm going to see you at Mesquite Con. And then I end the month at Toylanta. Was this a surprise for you when you saw us drop this announcement?
Pleasant surprise. Yes.
Pleasant surprise.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I know there's a a group of folks out there that are saying, you know, no humans in cosmic, right? And that's not me. Like I'm ready for Space Marines. I'm ready for, you know, whatever. Like this totally hit me in the feels. I was like super excited about this figure. Now, I'll be, if I'm being honest, I don't know if I need some of the show exclusive parts.
Sure.
Like they're cool, but the non-show exclusive version for me is probably how I want to display it anyway. So
And
yeah, I love this.
To me, that's the best. That's what show exclusive parts should be.
Yeah.
Show exclusive parts should be like, hey, these are cool to have,
Mm.
but if I don't have them, I'm not terribly broken. If I can get the main figure, if I can get the character, I don't need the, you know, the shield and the baton. You know? Yeah. This was one where, you know, I talked about this previously, working with Brett from Toylanta. You know, he wanted something that was in the vein of the show. The show has a big, you know, G.I. Joe type history, and we didn't want to do a G.I. Joe tribute. As much as this looks like Roadblock, you know, I kid you not, we tried to make it not Roadblock, you know?
Right.
Well, because I think I told this story that when we were talking about what human head, because we said we're going to do like a human kind of like military style character, right?
Mm-hmm.
We basically have 3 human heads that were available to us: Magnus, Attila, and Zende. We had just used Magnus for the Legions Con set for AA20, and we had just used Attila for Fisher Rice. So Eric, who put this idea together, was like, I don't want to use those 2 heads because we just used them. So that left Zende, which it just kind of became this character, but intentionally saying like, okay, we knew we wanted to do camo on it, but you know, he's often, I think Roadblock is more, usually has like a camo like tank top on and like orange pants, if I'm not mistaken. You know, we intentionally were like, okay, let's put the camo on his lower half. Regardless, when this figure came together, I will admit it looked so much more like intentional and realized than I think we expected it was going to.
I don't think there's a problem with it. I mean, there's going to be people out there that are maybe not Cosmic or Mythic fans that are Joe fans that are going to see this and go, yeah, I got to have this because it reminds me, whether it looks like or it was intended to, it reminds me of Roadblock. And that's not bad. That's a cool thing. I see this and I just think it's a cool figure, man. Like this guy is just like, he's got that big old gun, the camo pattern that I don't know who painted this, but whoever did that camo pattern on the legs nailed it. It looks awesome.
I'm going to ask Joe in the chat if he can say who painted that camo, because I think I know who it is, but because I'm not positive, I'm not going to say. So if he knows and wants to share it, I'll let him know.
But it looks cool. I love like the browns, the greens, like the color choice on here is perfect. It looks so good.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I mean, Dave's asking camo in space. I mean, just like with the Mistros, you got to remember, this is not a Cosmic Legions figure. This is going to be branded ATL 25. This is, you know, just like we said with Demistros being like representative of the kinds of villains from, you know, Masters Universe and Thundercats and all stuff like that. This particular one was meant to just be like, hey, this is a character I think the bio says could be fighting for freedom, you know, in toy collections everywhere.
Yeah. And as far as like, you know, camo in space, like they don't just stay in space. They land on planets, right? Yeah. And maybe the planet they're landing on has a bunch of greenery. I'm just saying. So
Joe says that Sherry is exceptionally good at camo and she did this one. And I do know what you're saying. There is kind of that divide for, you know, some people know humans in my Cosmic, some people that want humans in Cosmic. This character is not Cosmic, but it's been very, very well received. And I would be remiss if I didn't admit that we've noticed that.
Yeah. I mean, Listen, I know you guys got your little divides, and this is going in this category, and this is a special. Really, it's going in my cosmic. So I'm just letting you know. I'm just throwing out. This is going straight in my cosmic.
I
Um,
get it. That's where it's going to go in mine too.
I mean, you can put it in whatever space you want on the website, but it's going in my cosmic.
So at the start of the month, we've got ZoloCon, and we've got this particular figure, which
this looks amazing too.
So even though the Warrior Beasts were from my era, like I didn't have a strong remembrance of them, like Skullman and everything, until I met Mike Zolo and, saw everything that he's done with the line and with the brand and stuff and all the stuff he's releasing. So last year, Skullman was a very interesting release for us because, it's a licensed release that we did with Mike. The Warrior Beasts it was an exclusive at ZoloCon, and then part of our agreement was we did a small run at Store Horseman. That small run at Store Horseman sold out immediately.
It was quick. Yeah.
It was very quick. And I will totally admit, we weren't sure what the fan reaction to the figure was going to be, because Skullman and Headhunter, they're kind of wacky designs, right? Like, they are not typical of what we would design in Mythic Legions. They are very much a product of kind of that when Warrior Beasts came out, that genuine, like, toyetic type approach to these things. But we weren't sure how our fan base was going to react, and they reacted very, very positively. Super excited to see that, and that gave us the confidence to know that, hey, yeah, there's something here. We can do this again. Mike, loved doing it last year. He wanted to do another one. So to be able to come out with this one, Headhunter, which personally, I like this one even more than Skullman.
Same, but I think what, if last year is an indication, I think what it tells me is, if I'm the director of sales and marketing, I probably start listening to Diego and Cookie more, because they said Skullman was the figure of the year, hands down, not even close. So maybe if I was in that spot, I would start calling up Diego and saying, hey, what do you think? How many of these should we order? So,
oh my God. Yeah. George as well. George is part of that little gang as well, because he was a big fan of Skullman last year as well.
Yeah. This is amazing, though. I love everything about this. So
this is a really fun figure. It's funny because a lot of people, when they saw it, well, let me ask you this. This Skullman is a vintage character, right? Headhunter is a newer character. So what Mike has done with the Warrior Beasts line is not only created, new versions of the vintage character, but he's also created new characters very much in the spirit of those older ones. Headhunter is one of those newer ones. So when you saw this figure, did it strike any nostalgic or any recognizable notes for you?
It has a slight resemblance to, like, Scareglow, especially, like, they've done several versions of Scareglow over the years where he's white with black bones and black with white bones. And especially Mondo's, I think Mondo's done like 4 versions of Scareglow at this point. Yeah. And I think one looks similar to this, but I didn't grow up or I really didn't know anything about, this line or any of that before last year. So it doesn't hit me anywhere where I go, oh, they're doing a, thing to this or whatever. But I just think it's a cool figure. I look at it and I go, man, that's awesome. Like, I love the whole build, the fact that you've got a skull head on a muscular body. Like, it's just cool. I love it.
Well, I knew a lot of people were going to think it was a Scareglow tribute, which it's clearly not. Like I said, if you look up Warrior Beasts Headhunter, you'll see the figure it's based on. But the first thing I saw when I looked at this figure, and I've got to bring in a comment from my friend over here, Wholesome Warlock. He says, Karate Kid nostalgia.
Oh, yeah.
The minute I saw this, I was like, oh, my God, this is a Johnny Lawrence Legions figure.
That's awesome. I didn't even think of that. Yeah,
So
you need to get a whole bunch of them though, because they had the whole Cobra Kai in that. Like you get like so. So what you're saying is, if I hear what you're saying, Jeremy, or where you're going is, everybody needs to order like 10 warrior beasts so that they can make a Karate Kid display.
all of the Cobra Kai dojo needs to be represented here. But yeah, as soon as I saw this, I was like, that totally looks like the skull costume that Johnny Lawrence wears in Karate Kid. So
well, there you go. Joe Gonzalez, if you're watching, in order to be a completist, you have to have at least 10 of these warrior beasts, just so you know.
How much is it going to be at the con? I think he's $50. So both this particular figure and the ATL 25 at Toylanta, to be clear, those are not sold by Four Horsemen Studios. So similar like at Legions Con, where there's the Four Horsemen table and they have all their stuff. And, this year we had the Ninian and everything. But the Legions Con figures, the show figures, are sold by the show. This is exactly how ATL 25 and Headhunter are going to work. It's how Skullman worked last year. They are offered by the show itself. I know last year Mike was allowing people to buy a bunch of extras in advance. It seems like he didn't do that this year, but my understanding is he will have them for sale at the show. So if you go to ZoloCon, there should be some of those. Or if you know someone going to ZoloCon that can be a mule for you, you should be able to have access to some of those. But it won't be at our table. We'll have lots of other stuff for sale, just not this particular figure.
But you will have the standard version later on. Yeah.
So Benny is dropping some knowledge. He says you would only need 3 of them because only 3 members of Cobra Kai dressed up in costume.
I seem to remember a whole group of them, but okay.
Yeah, that sounds right to me. Benny said that very, very confidently.
Yeah, he sounds like he's sure. Yeah.
I could tell, obviously I'm just reading, but just the strength of his words, very confident. So I'm going to say Benny is correct there.
Now you just got to put out a con figure of the guy dressed like the shower, where he's got the big shower curtain.
I feel like Nate's going to do a custom of that now.
Yeah.
Nate's going to do a custom of that shower guy.
I can see that.
Before we go any further, I did have this comment earlier that I wanted to share with you. Jade Russo says, Curtis, please do a paint matching Orc Goblin green next.
I actually just did one not too long ago. But the thing is that, depending on what orc or goblin you have, they do vary a little bit. So if you look on there, I do have one just recently that I did. But you're going to have to kind of play around with some colors depending on which one you got.
Yeah. I think this question from Motu Guru was asking if there's going to be a Store Horseman version of Headhunter. Yes, there will. We did order more of Headhunter than we did of Skullman. It still will have a limit when we put it up, but hopefully it will last more than 2 minutes this time, and we'll be able to fill more of that demand.
Now I know the exclusive parts on the ATL figure. That's the head, the baton, and the shield, right?
Yep.
What is it on the Headhunter?
The head that you see on the right here with the flames, that's the exclusive piece.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so the standard version, the show version comes with 3 heads. It comes with the head with a movable jaw, a head with a fixed jaw, and it comes with the flaming head. The soft goods are available on both. The halberds available on both. So the only thing that's exclusive, that's specific to the show version, is that spectral green magic head.
Gotcha. So anybody that's looking to make their Ghost Rider, they need to get the show version.
Yep.
Okay.
But again, that's the head that's from the Undead builder pack.
Oh yeah, that's coming out soon.
Yeah, so that'll be out. So I mean, realistically, if you were going to repaint this head to make a Ghost Rider, you would be silly to repaint this particular one. This one is going to be a lot harder to find than that Undead builder pack, which I'm sure people, there's 4 heads in that thing. So you can only build one figure out of it. People are going to have plenty of extra parts.
Yeah.
Oh, Rob Zamora is throwing down saying Benny's wrong. There were 4, Johnny plus 3 of his friends.
Oh boy, man.
I feel I have to look this up now.
This is getting real now. Well, while you're doing that, I talked about this weekend I'm going to be doing that pop and swap with Jeff on Cosmic. I've got another one I'm planning on doing for Mythic coming up with Jesse, where we're going to take some of those game figures, because I don't know if people realized, but 3 of the 4 game figures, the male elf, the female elf, and then the female orc, all are 2.0 parts. And so if you get those 3 sets, which I know are still readily available in certain places for not much more than they were originally, you got so many pop and swap options for 2.0 that it's ridiculous.
Yep.
That's just another really good one. So
Rob is correct, as evidenced by this photo. We've got 3 of the Cobra Kai members fully dressed up, and then we've got Johnny that's about to open a can of whoop ass on Daniel. Were you a Karate Kid fan, Curtis?
It was a good movie. I enjoyed it. It's not one that I needed to watch like over and over again, but I did like it. I like the Cobra Kai, the series, a lot better than I liked the movies. So
Cobra Kai, the series, has no business being as good as it is.
Correct.
Like, there is no world where that, like 20 years after this movie, that this follow-up show should be as good as it is. And I will admit that it's a ridiculous show. The fact that every situation ends up like devolving into a giant like kung fu battle.
Yeah, and people throwing each other through windows and off balconies, and
But I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah, it's really good. So and I think it's interesting too. Like when I was a kid, totally rooting for Daniel, but as an adult, it's like, no, I'm a Johnny guy. Yeah.
Same thing. I grew up in I wanted to be the Karate Kid, right?
Yeah.
Like, he was awesome. And obviously Cobra Kai were bad. But when this show came out and I was like, oh my goodness, Daniel was the bad guy. Like, Daniel was such a jerk.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm totally team Johnny Lawrence now.
Facts.
Johnny Lawrence is going to be at MegaCon.
Nice.
The guest list for MegaCon, they were talking about this on the afternoon show, and there was some sentiment that celebrities at shows are, they suck the money out of the room. I totally agree with that. It's, it's one of the reasons, for instance, why Joe Viteri never has celebrities at his shows. They suck the money out of the room and everything. But a show like MegaCon, the celebrities are actually a huge part of that. But if you look at the guest list, my wife almost made the trip with me because she's a huge Doctor Who fan. And there's a massive reunion of Doctor Who characters including 2 doctors. Matt Smith and Jodie Whittaker are both going to be there. But the full cast from Breakfast Club is there. A whole multiple people from Karate Kid and Cobra Kai, multiple people from Stranger Things, lots of DC Universe television people as well, Arrow and all that stuff. It's an insane guest list.
Is there somebody, not necessarily at MegaCon, but just in general, that if they showed up at a con that you would wait in line for, that you'd be like, yeah, I've got to wait in line to see that person and maybe get an autograph?
I'm not a celebrity.
Yeah.
That's just not my thing. It's never been my thing. There's really no one that I would be super excited. There's no one I would be super excited to wait in line to go meet. There are people, if I was at a bar and David Tennant walked in, everything I've seen, if David Tennant and Michael Sheen walked in together, I would be thrilled because I've seen videos of those 2 guys interacting
Yeah.
and they're hysterical and they're really good friends.
Right.
So that I would be totally jazzed to hang out and talk to them and stuff. But to actually just wait in line, get 30 seconds with someone and get a signature, that's just never been my thing at all.
Yeah, I was listening to them kind of read through the guest list and stuff today, and like I could see myself maybe waiting in line for Dolph Lundgren. I think that would be kind of cool, just playing He-Man and Drago and I like it. Like I could see that, but yeah, I'm not a big wait in line celebrity guy either. But I've been to some shows where I've seen those lines like super long. Like so, some people definitely are.
Is there someone you would love to meet?
Man,
besides Dolph Lundgren?
I can't think of anybody that. Well, no, Bo Jackson. It's a sports one, but like
really
growing up, I loved Bo Jackson. Like that's the reason why I'm a Raiders fan now. Unfortunately, and I just loved him. The fact that he was playing two sports, the fact that he was just like the most athletic person you ever saw. Loved him. So yeah, I would wait in line for Bo, but that's about it. That I can think of.
Fair enough. I like it.
Yep.
Curtis, we're running up on 9 o'clock right now. Anything else that you are thinking about for 2025? Anything you're looking forward to? Are you anxiously looking forward to the Dragon?
I am. I'm looking forward to a couple dragons. Yeah, because I know. I'm one of those folks that usually, especially like with Figure Obscura, where I say you got to appreciate it for, at least 24 hours before you start tearing apart and doing things. Yeah. I'm telling you, as soon as I open that dragon, I'm starting painting it. Like I already have it in my mind. I already know what I'm doing. The first dragon I open is already getting paint on it. So,
wow.
Yeah. So I'm super stoked for it. It's going to be really cool. And I mean, just a great job that you guys did, not only putting it together, but displaying it and showing it. And I hope it's got that base. Man, I really need that base. But yeah.
So are you painting it because you don't care for the green?
Oh, no. That's why I have to get at least two.
Oh, so you're gonna get
I love the green, but I knew whenever the Four Horsemen put out a dragon, the first thing that I was going to have to do is paint one up like Granomir, like that, and I'm talking cartoon, like the pink and purple Granomir, not the So that's like the first thing that I want to do. And I'm sure like other people, I'm not one of those, customizers who are like, well, I don't want somebody else to beat me to it, or I want, whatever. Somebody else is going to do one, and they're probably going to do one better than I am. And that's fine. But I just want to paint one up like Granomir. I think it'll be a ton of fun. So
that's a good idea. I love that. And I like the fact that you're painting it like a specific character, as opposed to just saying like, I really wanted this color dragon, and because the first one is not that color, I'm going to get it and I'm going to paint it.
No, I'm sure we're going to get some other ones. Like, I've already had a Four Horsemen dragon for a while, which is the Granomir that they did for classics. And so that's basically going to be the model that I work off of in terms of like paint matching and stuff. Like, yeah, but no, I'm excited for it. It's going to be a lot of fun, and just whatever else. The other thing, Figure Obscura. I'm excited to see what kind of things you guys come up for Figure Obscura this year, and even like the retailer stuff. Like we were talking. I think it was a Saturday Day Live. I'm on so many shows now, but like we were talking about. It might have been the New to Mythics, where they were talking about the Frankenstein's creature and what kind of are they going to go green? Are they going to go this and that? I'm really hoping for a black and white. Like I'm hoping for, like when I saw those pictures from Trevor, I'm like, man, I really hope they give us like a grayscale black and white version of Frankenstein's creature. So yeah, there's just, between the retailer ones and the new ones that you guys come out with, like that is my favorite. I love all the lines, but Figure Obscura is my favorite because of the whole just spectacle of it. The whole thing, it from the tease, the reveal, Dork Layer's video, then the Saturday Day Live talking about it. Then you have Eric on during the week. It's just, it's just so much fun.
Yeah, I agree. It's there's something special about it when I hear people talk about, there's nothing else like a Figure Obscura drop weekend in toy collecting. It's very, very true. Big surprise. I'm super excited for what we've got lined up for Figure Obscura this year. I think we're going to delight and surprise a lot of people.
That's awesome.
Curtis, thank you very much for joining me tonight. And as I said earlier, thank you for everything you do for the community. If you are thinking of getting started in Legions customizing, I've got a lot of videos out there, but my videos are really, really old. Check this guy out. This guy over here. Sorry. I always do that. I always point the wrong way.
It's always the opposite. Yeah.
Check this guy out over here. He's the guy. He's posting a ton of great videos on his channel, Art by Akerman. Really, really great stuff. And certainly reach out to Curtis if there's a video that you would like him to do. I'm sure he'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely.
With that, as I said, I will be out next week because I will be in Florida. When I come back, we're going to have some new stuff to talk about.
Ooh.
I'll see you then.